This is not going to be a Steve Jobs type of keynote, just computer nerds. I'm Tim Sweeney, the founder of Epic Games, and this is Zach Parrish on the keyboard. This is the start of something new for Epic. If you look back over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of change, and a lot of the news at Epic has been about what games we won't be developing, and what key long-time Epic folks won't be developing with us in the future. But throughout that whole time, we've been working really quietly behind the scenes, building a new generation of technology and a new generation of games. And this is really the first time we're going to have a chance to get out in front of the world and tell you about the future of Epic. And a key part of the future of Epic is this Unreal Engine. Its development started in 1995. I wrote the first Unreal Engine code, about 80% of it myself. Since then, it's grown into a team of 100 developers around the world, contributing to a really awesome leading-edge engine. And for the past 2 years, we've made this engine available to a few AAA licensees around the world. We've been using it to build some really awesome and leading-edge games. Some of them have been announced, many haven't, but the Unreal Engine remains an awesome venue for building very high-quality games. But we realize we haven't covered the entire depth of what the engine is capable of. And so here we're going to talk about things in more detail and tell you about the future of the Unreal Engine. And the future of the engine is really inspired by a lot of changes in the game industry. I was thinking back to the last generation when it began in 2005. PC was in decline. Steam was like this funny download service that you had to go through to get Half-Life 2. Next generation consoles were launching, and there were gigantic AAA teams forming around building next generation games. If you looked at the game industry at that point, and its 20 years of history, you might have realistically at that point thought, okay, I get it. Every year, game teams are going to be bigger, budgets are going to be bigger, and the future is just going to be this simple arms race of building bigger and more complex games. But a huge amount of exciting things have happened in the past few years that have changed all of that. Since the last generation's launch, Apple has introduced the iPhone. A huge and vibrant development community of indie developers has formed up around that. You have new platforms like Oculus VR, and major distribution opportunities to reach tens of millions of gamers through venues like Steam and online distribution systems coming to the Xbox and PlayStation platforms and all of the mobile platforms. So we're really excited about that future. But just to recap what the Unreal Engine is capable of, last year for GDC we built the Infiltrator Demo, which is a high-end demo running in real time on high-end NVIDIA graphics hardware. And this time we'll just show a video of the Infiltrator Demo to kind of recap what the engine is capable of at the high end. Infiltrator, you're probably thinking a bunch of things. You're probably thinking, that's really cool, but it's probably really difficult and complicated to create content like that. You know, but one of the things about Unreal Engine 4 that's been a major focus for us is building an engine and tool set that are very highly usable for developers of all sizes. And so we haven't said a whole lot about what the experience is like every day for the programmers and designers and artists who work with the Unreal Engine. But they're generally working with the Unreal Editor, and it's a very polished and fun tool now. You'd be really amazed at what you can build with just a few mouse clicks and a few days of learning. And to demonstrate that, Zach is going to do a quick demo of the latest Unreal Editor.
Yeah, so we're going to keep things fairly simple. I'm going to start off by building just a little basic environment here. So let's bring some geometry into the world, and let's resize this to something slightly more usable for our purposes. And I'll snap this right down to the ground. Let's bring the camera up on it. All right, cool. So I have a brick. Let's copy up our brick. I'm going to make this a subtractive shape, so you can see how it kind of starts carving away some of the geometry. And we'll resize this a little bit. And with a little bit of moving around, we end up with a little two-walled set. Like so. Now, currently it's a fire hazard if this wasn't set, so let's put a door in the back. So I'll duplicate this. Let's make this a little more door-like. Punch in some numbers. I can just snap this right down to the ground and slide it into the back wall and into the door. Now currently, of course, the default material is a little bit boring, so I'm going to grab the back wall and just run a quick algorithm to grab all the wall surfaces, and let's drag and drop some brick onto that. The floor, we'll do some hardwood flooring. Let's rotate that because that looks nice. And then we'll put something up on the ceiling. Now, of course, some decorations would be good too. So we can just quickly drag and drop in, say, a table, a chair, another chair. And if we needed something special, we can quickly search through this and be like, let's look for a cow. And we'll put a cow on the table. Because, you know, a little cow. We won't overdo it on the cows. And then we can light the ceiling, so I can drop in a light. Now this light was actually created with our blueprint system, which I'll talk about a little bit more later, but that means it already has some scripted behavior. So I can turn it on and it starts lighting the scene, or I can do something a little more fancy, like I can make a duplicate of it and toggle its lamp type to something else entirely. So now it's a floor light, and we just put that over in the corner of the room. Now, of course, our doorway would look cooler if there was something in there, so I'll just drag and drop in a door. Now, this was also created with our blueprint system. So that means now, if I want to, I can just go ahead and start playing right here in the editor. And when I turn around and look at my environment, the door just magically opens. Now that's just a quick look at some basic environment creation. Moving on, let's take a look at some of our new material features in UE4. So we're now using a physically based material system. So that means we define our materials much more simply and much more easily to work with. So here we're adjusting the base color, which just changes how light's absorbed. We can control roughness. Now, technically that controls micro-faceting along the surface, but really it just makes things shiny. So the rougher something is, the less shiny it appears, as you see here. We can also control how metallic a surface is. So here I have something that looks very much like shiny plastic. As I increase its metallic properties, it shifts over toward chrome. And we can do some much more fancy things as well. So here I have a couple of different materials that are actually perturbing their geometry. So if we take a look at this in wireframe, you can actually see that geometry moving around. And over here, we have some materials, we have some materials that are taking in inputs from a camera. There's actually a camera object over there filming those other materials and displacing them here. Here we have a material that is taking in the actual scene and then adjusting it to give you sort of a high-tech Tron-like look. Here we're wiping between one of the many render buffers that we use. So here's the actual roughness buffer, so you can get an idea of how rough all the surfaces are. Here we have multiple surface types with masked opacity. You can see how the transparent areas are shadowing properly along the surface. Over here we have a material that is blending water and metal. And this is a material instance, so it's very easy for me as a user to jump into this and quickly make changes that update in real time within the game. Or if I wanted to make a change to the actual behavior of the material, I can open up our powerful material editor system and change the graph network that actually defines that material. Now, our materials can also respond to in-game behaviors as well. So if I jump in, here I have 3 materials, ice, wood, and steel, that I can throw fire at, and they change appropriately. Or I can cool them back off with water and get an entirely different look. Now moving on, let's take a look at blueprints, which you heard me discuss earlier. Blueprints are our new visual scripting system in Unreal Engine 4. They allow non-programmers, particularly artists and level designers, to be able to create their own in-game behaviors. So up to now, I've just been playing in the engine. Now I'm going to simulate the engine, which essentially means the game is playing without us. We remain back behind in the editor, so we can still work with things. I'll select this little bouncing ball, and we can open up the graph that is driving its behavior. So it's fairly straightforward. We have what's called a timeline, which is driving the motion and scale of the ball. And down here at the bottom, there's a node which is firing off the little ripple effect that takes place down at the bottom every time it bounces. I can right-click on this and add a breakpoint, and the next time that node is executed, it'll actually halt execution of the game and take me right to this location, making debugging of these graphs very quick and easy. And of course, you can also see how the data is flowing through in real time. Now, blueprints don't have to just be for things that are moving and actually doing things within your game. You can also use them to create powerful level design tools. So here we have a railing that has a variable length. So I can just adjust the slider and make this any length that I need to. And this can be independent of each instance. So it's very easy for me to copy this off, change the length, and I can quickly populate my levels. And so with Blueprint, we can make a powerful level design tool that we can use to make our games more quickly. Now, blueprints can also communicate with one another. So here I have 3 blueprints. I've got a button, I've got some gears back here in the back, and I've got this light. Now, if I play the game, and I step on the button, the gears start turning because there's communication taking place between those 2 blueprints. But it's very easy for me to select the button and say, you know what, I want you to talk to the light instead. So now the next time I play, the light comes on. And I actually really want one of those light bulbs. Now we can do some more sophisticated things as well. So over here, I have this little butterfly. And I need to pause because he's really tiny. I need to be able to select him. Now this butterfly actually has his own AI behavior that was created entirely within Blueprint by a level designer, not by an AI coder or anything fancy like that. So as he flies around, he gets tired, he'll look for a place to land, and then he'll recharge and then strike off again in a random direction. And we can actually watch the data flow through his entire brain, if you will, as he simulates in our scene. Now to really drive this home, in here we have a couple of games that were made within Blueprint that exist within our gaming environment. So it's games within games. So if we walk up to this little counter, sorry, I'm doing get carried away. So that was created entirely by one level designer who just wanted to make a Galaga-style game. Over here, we have another example where you see my camera gets taken over, I have new controls, and now I'm flying this little UFO around. And I can come over here and abduct these little cows, or the trees if I want. And I can put them back in their little pen. And once again, all of this behavior is made possible with Blueprint. Now to show that off, I'm actually going to jump out of the game. So I can eject, and the game will continue to play without me, as you see here. So now I can select the UFO, we can open up its graph. There's a few things going on here. Let's go over to the graph that actually makes the abduction being possible. So there's a lot of different things going on, but I'm going to zoom in basically just on the on-off controls. And I'll make the most of my screen space here just so we can see that. So now if I repossess this UFO and start flying around, you can see as I turn the beam on, we can actually watch the behavior flow through the graph. And best of all, these are not all individual disparate pieces. They all just work seamlessly together. So it's not like when I'm done playing around and picking up cows, I have to stop. Everything will interact with my UFO now. all the way back to our little environment that we had earlier. And of course, it's always fun to destroy things, so that is a quick look at some of the new tools and techniques available in Unreal Engine 4. Thanks.
Thanks, Zach. So that's the engine. It's for a lot more than building massive AAA projects. Anything from a lone wolf designer wanting to build a game, even if you don't know how to program in C++, you can build a game using the blueprint system, and just with the visual tool set, get something up and running really quickly and easily. And it scales all the way up, to larger indie developers, mid-sized teams, AAA teams, ranging up to hundreds of people. And even now, I think this will be a fun experience for like a high-end Minecraft player who yearns for the capability of building more realistic and larger and more expansive worlds. This is potentially a new outlet for them. And all this growth in the capabilities of the Unreal Engine has led us to really rethink our whole business and how we make the engine available to individuals and to teams. All along in Epic's history, we've made the Unreal Engine available to AAA game developers. It's often cost many millions of dollars, and licensing it has involved lawyers negotiating for weeks or months at a time to figure out business terms. But for the really big and successful teams who wanted access to it, they were able to get it, and they've built some great games over the Unreal Engine's history. But looking at the new shape of the industry now, we realize that's an outdated model for most people. This is a tool and an engine that could benefit absolutely everybody. And so looking at the possibilities for the engine, we started out from scratch and we asked, how can we make the most valuable and useful engine available to everybody as practically as possible? And so we came up with an entirely new business model for the Unreal Engine, which we're announcing today. And so here's how it is. There are two parts to the equation. First of all, absolutely anybody can gain access to Unreal Engine 4 by subscribing to the engine. And in the subscription, you pay $19 a month, and you get access to everything. You get the latest tools, the Unreal Editor and the other supporting tools for PC and Mac. You can use the tools on those platforms to develop games, and on those platforms, you can then deploy to PC, Mac, iOS, and Android. All of those platforms today, and more coming in the future. And so that gives you access, and then for a developer who wants to ship a game, we have a very simple royalty model where developers pay 5% of the game's gross revenue from product sales to users, and by paying those royalties, you gain access to the complete engine and toolset. Now, over Epic's history, we made the Unreal Engine available to the public in various ways. With Unreal Tournament, we released the mod toolkit back in 1999, which included a version of the editor, but didn't include the ability to ship standalone games. And more recently, with Unreal Engine 3, we released the Unreal Development Kit, which was a binary-only version of the engine, which included the editor and some terms where developers could actually build and ship indie games. And some successful games have come out of that, but it hasn't grown to the magnitude that we hoped. And so with Unreal Engine 4, we're aiming to just wipe the slate completely clean. And here's how we're doing that. Everybody who subscribes to the Unreal Engine gets access to the engine's complete C++ source code. Now, I was talking to somebody outside the game industry about source code, and they're like, oh, is that text file stuff that programmers edit? And yes, it is that, but it's also a lot more. The source code, it's Epic's crown jewel. This is the entire code base that we use to build all of our games, the entire code base that we make available to all of our licensees paying millions of dollars for access to the engine. And now we're making it available to everybody in the general public. And with the source code, you can do absolutely anything. You're not limited by the features that we design in the product. Absolutely whatever you want. You can either find it in Unreal Engine 4 today, or you can find it out in the Unreal Engine 4 community developed by somebody else, or you can build it yourself. And with the complete source code, you can do all of that. You can modify it and you can share it. And we're releasing the source code through the GitHub community. It's a sharing and basically a community source code development website, which provides really great features for developers to collaborate together, to build projects, to modify and extend other people's code bases, and to manage complete projects. So everybody who subscribes to the engine can go download the binary version of the tool as the editor. Without any programming experience, you can get up and running and start building levels, just like Zach Parrish can. And if you're a programmer, you can then download the source code and start editing it and do absolutely anything you want with it. We think this model is going to be really, really interesting for the game industry because it gives absolutely every developer on Earth economical access to absolutely everything we at Epic have when we develop our games internally. All of the advantages and all of the capabilities are all there, and you can do with it whatever you like, as long as you pay $19 per month for access and 5% of gross revenue. And that's a bold new step for Epic, but we think it's an appropriate one given the new style of the game industry. It's now grown into a very open and democratic forum where absolutely anybody can go out and build a game and ship it, and the best games rise to the top and be successful. And if the Unreal Engine can be a valuable part of people's development pipeline and building these next generation games, we'll be very happy and supportive of it. Now, to support Unreal Engine 4, we're making available a new set of Epic forums where the community and Epic developers can get together and chat about development. We're hosting a Q&A site for asking questions on Answer Hub. We have the source code available on GitHub. Zach has recorded some awesome video tutorials explaining how to use all of the content creation aspects of the Unreal Engine. And we also have a very large set of documentation available for everybody. And all of this, we're not just announcing it, it's available today, starting at 9:30. You can go to our website, sign up, download it, and get started. And this is really just the beginning. If you go download that source code, you can see the beginning of many new initiatives in Unreal Engine 4. They're not quite ready for prime time yet, but are well under development and can be used and experimented with by developers all over the world. There's support for Linux and Valve's SteamOS operating system in anticipation of the Steambox platform coming out. There's support for deploying Unreal Engine 4 games into HTML5, where they can run within a web browser without any plugins at all. We've developed that in partnership with Mozilla. Now everything we develop from today forward is going to be accessible in our source code. You'll be able to start seeing the code changes we're making and seeing Epic's future. It's going to be a very open and collaborative environment. Not this sort of secretive elite approach that we've taken in the past, where the engine's been available just to a few teams in strict secrecy, but available to everybody in a very, very transparent process. So we're excited about this. And besides releasing the engine, we're also releasing a lot of samples of things you can build with the Unreal Engine. So one example to show what you can do using the engine's full high-end graphics capabilities to build a completely original type of game. Can you load up the all right. So we built Tappy Chicken.
I have it on iPhone if anyone wants to see that.
This isn't necessarily the most advanced demo of what's possible in Unreal Engine 4, but it shows that you can.
Hang on, no, I can fix this. So this was created by one of our artists, and it's just a blueprint. So there was no C++ programming or anything. So let me change the game a little bit.
Oh, you cheated.
Oh, well, it's not cheating. I'm developing. It's different. So we'll just change the jump height real quick. Quick recompile. Done. Awesome. Play again. All right, I got this now. Oh, see? Precision controls. Sort of. Not really.
So this was built by a designer in the course of 2 days without any programming at all. Just as a demonstration of what's possible, and as you can see, the game's designed entirely in blueprints. There was absolutely no programming in this. The designer doesn't even know C++, and I doubt he was even sober for most of the time he was building it. So there you can see blueprints scaling up to a more complex game that has a lot, various different controls and capabilities. And blueprints are kind of the interface now between programmers and designers. As you're building a more complex game, A designer can use the visual tools to create gameplay logic within the game. They can then ask the programmer for a feature. Instead of the programmer going in and creating some very gameplay-specific logic somewhere, the programmer can expose new types of blueprint nodes, and then the designer can reuse them all over the game. So it's really designed to create a very simple iterative process for designers and programmers to both maximize their productivity in building games, in a forward-looking future style that takes advantage of everybody's capabilities. We're shipping about 10 samples with the Unreal Engine and have many more in the pipeline. One of the samples, for example, is a shooter game. We built to kind of demonstrate what a very simple and basic, but next generation type of shooter would look like. We built this level and some gameplay code for it. This is not an Epic game release. This is a sample we're making available to the entire community for free. The community can take this and all of the assets and all of the code and build their own games with it. And so here you see a shooter game with weapons. We have enemies. We have some AI here. The AI seems to be good at hiding.
Yeah, it's hiding right now.
But it's just one of many examples we're providing to show the community how to build games of different types. We have a strategy game that's basically a tower defense type of scenario. We have some other simple 2D game examples and other things on the way to show off how to use the engine for different genres of games. And at this point, we think that the engine isn't just a shooter engine anymore. It's now suitable for just about anything you might want to build. And because you'll have a combination of the full editor and the blueprint system and the full C++ source code for those 4 platforms, you're really not limited by what Epic provides at all. You're limited only by your imagination and your ability to go out and build cool things with it. And so we really look forward to seeing what people can do with this. We've had a great amount of fun building it, and we're really excited to be able to make it available in this way to everyone. And now, any questions anybody would like to ask about any of these topics? Yes?
For free-to-play games, I guess the 5% of revenue wouldn't apply, and if there's in-game ads, would that also be part of your data?
Oh, sure. So the 5% royalty terms apply to gross revenue from users from all aspects of the game. That would include the sale price of the game, if it has one. If the game is free to play or has microtransactions, that includes microtransaction revenue and the developer's revenue from advertising. And this is explained in a lot of detail on our website. There's an end user license agreement that's meant to be as simple as possible, but outlines all of the ways that these terms work. It's designed to be simple and interpretable so that if a developer succeeds with the engine, then we succeed. And because we're pricing the engine available to everyone, the same basic subscription price as an MMO, that's not going to fund our 100-person development team. Our whole business model is structured so that we succeed with this only if developers succeed in making great games. And that's what really excites us about this business model. It reminds me of the Shareware days back in 1991 when I'd release one episode of a game for free and then ask people to send in a check, and then I'd mail out a 3.5-inch floppy disk with the other episodes of the game. With that model, if our product sucks, nobody's ever going to pay for it. So we are absolutely forced by the economics of the world to deliver value to everyone and make sure that the terms are fair. And if a game is completely free, then there's no royalty attached to it. So everybody can do anything they want as a hobby project and release it to the public. And if you're doing it for fun, then there's no royalty due whatsoever. Yes?
Console projects will be separately negotiated then? Yes.
Right now, so Unreal Engine 4 runs really well on console. We have some stuff in our GDC booth showing it off. We support Xbox One and PlayStation 4. We have that shooter game we showed is up and running at a high frame rate on all the console platforms. As an example, we can't provide the console source to the general public under these terms because of various NDAs and agreements in place. It is available under a negotiated license, and for any team who's building a game with Unreal Engine 4 and needs console access, we can talk to us and we can find a way to get you access. And we'd hope in the future, over the coming months and working with Microsoft and Sony, to find a way to make all of this console support generally available to everyone. That's what we'd like to do. But it's opening up things really widely to the indie community are new to all of us, and it's going to take a few months to figure that out.
What kind of additional cost would it be for the additional licenses for consoles?
The console terms are custom negotiated. It would depend on the scale. So in addition to these terms that we've announced here, we will still work with any game developer who wants it to negotiate custom license terms. Some developers and publishers prefer to pay no royalties at all, and so they negotiate a deal where they pay some money up front. Generally a large amount of it up front in exchange for not paying royalties. For console access, we can do anything ranging from, the terms will depend on the team, but for a good team building a cool game, we're going to try to be very supportive. Yes.
So, is there anything you can say about Unreal Tournament? It's normally debuted with engine technology.
Oh, an Unreal Tournament game. No, we are not shipping an Unreal Tournament game. We have a lot of nostalgia for that game, but we actually are not developing anything in the Unreal game universe at all at the moment. We have we've announced Fortnite, which is you're building structures and then defending them against zombie attacks by day and by night. That's a game we'll be saying more about lately. We don't have the game to show you here today at GDC. We're developing that game, and we have several other projects that aren't announced yet being built with Unreal Engine 4. And so we're pushing the engine's feature set on all platforms really hard, ranging from PC to console to mobile. And we just have to leave the announcements of those things to later. Any more questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. I look forward to seeing how this all works out. Hope it works.